Wonderful world of work packages. I hope you enjoyed lunch, and I hope you're not too tired right now, but we have still some important issues to cover. But let's go on. Basically, the management, implementation, and even investment work package follow the similar kind of logic. So I try not to explain things too many times. But starting with what we want to see in the management work package. This is the internal work of the project. We want to see how you define the project management structures. Projects usually have a steering group that should be named, and in practice projects also have different other groups for the purely operational issues, and the steering group works on a more strategic level, maybe including people who are not in the partner organizations but are otherwise relevant and from a bit from outside of the project. We would like to see the responsibilities regarding management described, and also we want to separate the internal and external communication of the project. So the internal communication should be in the management work package, while the external communication towards your target groups should be in the communication work package. We are also looking for your short analysis on the risks related to project management and how you are planning to mitigate those and to ensure that the project quality will be maintained. And in some cases, the project partners have planned to externalize project management, so there is a procured project manager from outside of the lead partner organization who is doing the project management things as an outside resource. So if you plan this, then let us know, and also the possible risks related to this kind of procedures. This is generally not recommended, but we have had it in a few projects, and we have also some successful examples of this, so it's not ruled out. And this is the basic structure that actually applies for all work packages. You have a summary, you have activities, and you have deliverables. So activities, there are some examples listed specifically for work package management. They might mean project events, project meetings, some other activities, and always each activity should have a deliverable. So you are doing something, and as a result of that you are ending up with something. It might be some very concrete thing. In the case of management, it might be the steering group minutes or something like that. So different things apply. And we are, of course, when we are reading the reports later, we are interested in how things are going. So it should be also, the process should be described also here. And excuse me, try to avoid putting too much load on one group. If you have the steering group, maybe it's not very wise for this group to handle every single thing related to the project, but you might want to have other groups to take care of smaller things, or these logic entities, work packages, etc. And for the, like I said, for the activities, list activities separately. That's the main recommendation. If you have events like, let's say, we have the example here of steering group meetings, which are occurring, let's say, every 6 months from the beginning to the end of the project, then you can also indicate them in one single activity and just write to the description that this will take place every 6 months. So you don't have to put in always separate meeting activities as such. And generally regarding management, you should take care of that there is enough cooperation to ensure the joint implementation of the project and joint management and well, basically joint everything. And then moving on to the implementation work packages. These now should follow the intervention logic that was presented in the morning session. So you should agree with the partnership how you want to build this project logic, what kind of logical parts do you want to put into, or how you want to divide your project into work packages. and of course, how many do you want to have? You will be reporting by work packages in the implementation of the project, so this of course means a bit more work if you have more work packages, but still you shouldn't strive for the minimum either, because remember always the project logic and the logical entities, and through that you get the logical rational number of work packages also. So here's just a slide on these intervention logic. Still we are now in the work plan phase, and outputs, activities, deliverables are what you will be defining on work package level. So you will have some kind of main achievements of the work package. So a set number of project activities will constitute to your output for this work package. Then you will achieve this through different kinds of activities, the tasks that you need to take to achieve the outputs and your project objectives. And deliverable then is, like I said, the outcome of an implemented activity. This is just a screenshot of the system. So you will define a responsible partner for the work package. You will select the partners who are participating to the implementation of this specific work package, and then you move on to the summary, and after that you will define the activities. And of course we need to understand the whole project sequence so that we can see that logical things follow each other and the result is there at the end. So in the work packages you don't anymore need to have this general information where you justify why things are necessary as such, but this should be very concrete. How are you planning to do these things that you have already justified in the previous more general steps of project description and relevance and focus and so on. And when you are defining the responsibilities for the project partners, be also realistic and equal in a way that you don't put all the burden on the lead partner. This is of course maybe the case with the management work package, but regarding implementation, consider also these joint things. And then you have the output for each work package, which is then contributing to the program, project and program outputs, and for this you have also a drop-down menu from which you choose the correct indicator, and please remember to check that the specific indicator is valid for your chosen specific objective, because there might be options that you cannot apply to this specific objective, so don't use them. And then you will have a title of the output and a description also for the output of the work package. And when you are defining these outputs on work package level, the system actually calculates your total input. So you will have a table looking like this on the very first page of the application. This will be automatically filled in, and it will show the output targets that you have defined on a project level. In this specific case, the project has as target 1 tourist attraction, like it should be, and then increase in expected number of visits is defined as 2,000. And what is a bit difficult and strange with the system is that it is cumulatively calculating the outputs. So in case you have several activities that are contributing to this one tourist attraction achievement, let's say you have three work packages or 3 outputs that are contributing to this, and you put this one into each of them, then it sums them up as 3 in this summary. So then there is no clever solution for this thing, but in practice you just have to choose where you put the 1 and leave zeros the others. So this is the only solution practically, and we will control this in the assessment of the. Yes, Ulari has a comment. We need to have the. Or you can maybe use this.
I have a solution in a way that indeed, as Samu described, if you want to have for project output target value, so you can only have those target values via program outputs, and if you do like that, it happens like Samu explained. Program output value gets some or a single number of that. But you can do project outputs in a way that you describe then in the text field. And if you have some value also to attach to project output, put that value also in the text field description. Do not bring in the program output from the right side anymore. So that avoids it kind of making it cumulative to the program output level. Describe everything about project output in the text field.
Good. Solution has been found. Yes, and of course you will remember very little of these things when you start filling in the application form. So get back to us and go to the guidance and read it, and in the end everything will be fine. So here is just the same case described again, and a little bit about the activities. So they should be in a chronological order, and they should be the main things that you do in the project. So not just the everyday tasks that you are filling in the worksheets is not an activity that you need to put into here. Be realistic with the time plan. I have a slide on the timeline as well, which describes also this quite nicely, and always remember the closure period. Communication, similar things. You will plan communication measures. You will also have communication objectives separately, which are also chosen from the drop-down menu. You have raise awareness, increase knowledge, change behavior, this kind of things that you can choose. And same things apply here. Concrete communication measures to reach the target groups, separate activities separately, not huge units of several activities, and only external communication activities should be described here. Investment follows the same logic, but there are a bit more questions and things we would like to know. So you should describe the investment, explain in which way it's joint. So what is the joint added value? You are not of course making physically cross-border investments as such, but the investments in different places should have cross-border added value and justify the thing, of course. And location of investment is also asked, so where are you building these things? So that should also be defined. We are interested in risks regarding investments, so you should foresee what are the risks. For example, different kind of permitting processes may take a long time, and that should be identified if you don't have the permits already taken care of. Investment documentation means exactly these, for example, permits, technical drawings, things like that you may have already available, or they can also be done during the project time in case it's not realistic to get them ready before the funding decision. And of course, who owns the investment and what will happen to the investment after the project. The EMS will automatically create a timeline for you, and this is actually a nice example of a timeline where you can see that there are separate activities. You can imagine that the project monitoring would be very difficult if all the activities would start in the beginning of the project and end at the end of the project. There would be full lines always, so try to get to that level that you get separate logical activities, and then we can also, and you can also see from the timeline when they should start, when they should end, and what is the next step, etc. In the work plan there are some other parts that you are filling in. There is a separate sheet for target groups where you choose your main target groups. There is a big list to choose from. Choose the relevant ones. It's not meant that you choose every single one and try to reach them, but think what is logical for your project and your activities. And these will be identified in the work packages, and they will also be automatically transferred to the target group section, but you have to provide the description of the target group in this subsection or page. And in these many cases where you have target values, you want to reach a certain amount of people in the general public, let's say, then think, what is my thinking behind this 1,000 people or whatever, and then follow this same logic when you are implementing the project. So it has happened in many projects that, for example, these target group target values have been exceeded by several thousands of percent because they are calculated differently. Initially you thought that you have a small target group, and then you realize that, okay, I have internet followers and etc., and maybe 20,000 people have read this article that we produced, and then when you start reporting those, you kind of lose the connection between the target value and what is actually happening. So try to think ahead and follow the same logic all the way in defining these target values. Then you will have reporting periods, which will show the 6-month periods for your reporting from the beginning of the project. This is initially calculated automatically, but in case you modify the start or end dates during the filling in of the application form, then you have to go in and click the button which recreates the periods so they are in the same timeline and order. Then you may also have activities outside of the program area. Let's say you are going to new markets somewhere in China and you are organizing events there to promote your products to achieve sales. Those costs that occur in the destination country, they fall under this category, and you should estimate the amount in this field and justify the activities, of course. And generally, travel costs, if you travel outside of the program area, which is allowed in justified cases, of course, these travel and accommodation costs don't fall under this category, so these are not considered to be activities outside of the program area. So I think this pretty much gives an overview of the general things about filling in the work plan, and for this purpose we have another guide called Guide for Filling in the Application Form, which is also not a very short document, but I think you will find many answers there, so get acquainted also. Then I think I will hand over to Ivo, who will talk you through this budget part.
So thank you and welcome back after for the afternoon session. Now the fun part starts. I ask you everybody to stand up. And now you please move your shoulders and hands, and you may hug neighbors if you like. And even when you don't like, you can sit down again. It's end of the fun part, and budget issues will come. Probably there are people, financial people in the room who find the budget also fun part, but maybe not everybody. And let's try to go through main things in this afternoon. I know that it myself feeling a bit sleepy, so let's try to go through. So general issues, of course, you have thought about your problem, you have thought about your work plan, you have thought what you want to do, and then now only this small thing is maybe partly missing, is this money. And what to say? At first, of course, think about the money, what you need to achieve the results, to remove these problems, what you have. Look at your activities. Remember that your budget and your planned resources need to go to these activities, what you have planned. Be realistic. It's advisable to involve financial experts from your organizations if you are not yourself very good in financial planning, because it is not just planning and thinking how much something would cost, but also all this reporting later, all these requirements what come from legislation, with paying taxes, paying salaries, and so on. So the financial expert is definitely needed, at least on project level. Don't remember that all costs are subject of public procurement rules, so follow the instructions in our program manual, what the program sets, but of course your own national legislation connected with these issues as well. And VAT issue included in the application and in the project only if it cannot be recovered by any other means, what probably mainly are connected with the local legislation. So if you can't get VAT back from other sources, then you can report it to us and then it would be eligible as well. When you start planning the budget, remember that budget is so-called three-dimensional. There are budget lines divided into sub-budget lines. There are reporting periods. We have 6-month reporting periods, so you should try to plan your finances according to these periods as well. And of course, work packages and activities. At what activities are you planning? And that's the way how to plan your resources. As previous speakers also said that EMS is not a planning tool, it's application and reporting tool. So start from the very beginning, your own system, some Excel or something else what I used to, and plan, include there all these activities already beforehand, and then try to find the money there according to these activities and according to probably 2-year, 3-year period. Calculation method. So if you write something in the application, then remember that the same method, same calculation you have in the application, you would need to report later on as well, that it would be really understandable that what you planned, how much you did, how much you spent. And one note that we don't have such kind of sub-budget line, that miscellaneous or something like that, so you more or less need to plan all your activities and plan finances for these, not something like etc. and then just leaving some open budget line there. So probably the same thing what I spoke, these steps. Think who will do what you will do at all. So it's work plan, planning, then you plan resources. On that, it of course not only money, but people, equipment, materials as well. And then all these expenditures, prices, which are related to these activities and plans. And allocation, so under which budget line, at what time, to which partner. One more general rule, probably no, but just to repeat, the maximum ERDF rate what the program supports projects it's 75% for Finnish and Swedish partners, 85% for Estonian and Latvian partners. Hasn't been changed. Just bear in mind that on total project level, this ERDF support can't be higher than 81% in this call. Who are eligible? Ylari spoke about partners in general. Both public and private partners can participate and their contribution is accepted. Partner-owned contribution can be the project partner's own funding, or it can be from other eligible organizations as well. So basically, very roughly to say, we don't care very much where do you get your 15 or 25% of your own co-financing, but you just need to have it. And while preparing the application and submitting documents, one document what is required is partner contribution statement. So every partner needs to provide it and state that that amount is planned for implementation of this project. So going further to the application in the budget, there are 7 budget lines listed here. We use another term, sub-budget line. So on the every budget line listed here, you probably have different items. So let's say travel and accommodation. Under that you create sub-budget lines. Travels to the steering group meetings or project partners meeting or whatever. So you can create these sub-budget lines yourself. That's what I mean. It's example of staff costs. These are sub-budget lines: project manager, financial manager, communication manager, for example. So if we came to salaries and staff costs, then about salary levels, this must be comparable to salaries paid for similar tasks in partner organizations who participate in the project. Idea of that statement is that our program, as all other programs or projects, they are not for creating some extra income or bigger money for some reasons. It's comparable work, just financed from another source compared to your everyday work maybe. And the salary level must be comparable. So you can't pay like 6,000-7,000 euros salary in Estonia, Latvia, for example, just to working in the project. If I mentioned about the 3-dimensional budget planning, here now these staff costs, you should, for example, divide per periods and also per work packages. So if project manager, for example, it is possible that project manager cost is only under the management work package if the project manager doesn't do any other content-related work on the separate work packages. If he or she will, then mark some of the salary on the other work packages as well. So and communication manager, for example, it could be on the communication work package also. So calculation of staff cost and working time. So we accept only full-time working for the project or part-time with fixed percentage of working time for the project. So it's different from second call when we had some other possibilities as well, when it was possible to use hourly rates or something like that. It was very complicated for partners as for us as well to understand who works how on which level, and it has been de-minimized this flexibility, and yeah, you need to define full or part-time fixed percentage. So it means, for example, somebody is working, let's say, 25% of the of his or her work time for the project. If you calculate actually this is here if you are using this fixed part-time, for example, 25%. So how we want you to show this calculation and salary level in the budget line, in sub-budget lines, it is that we want to see this percentage. Is it full or half time? We want to see brutto salary per month. So, I mean, on that case, this person's salary from the project would be 400 euros. So this is a full salary, and then we can understand that from that 30% or 50% or 20% will be paid for that person. And of course add this, as we call coefficiency, these are the social taxes, what you need to pay for on top of all salaries anyway. Monitoring, we don't require timesheets. Exactly for that reason that we count on that you are reporting 25% or 50% of working time. It is fixed in the contract, of course. In the contract what you sign for working for the project, there should be this work time and salaries mentioned as well, and calculation and reporting will be accordingly. So we don't need timesheets, we don't need exact data how many hours somebody worked. If your organization requires timesheets, and if you're in your organization you need to keep very tight reporting system, then it's up to you and up to your employer and your organization, but you don't need to report them to us. And we have got questions that, yeah, I need to report hours, that how it will be calculated then into this part-time percentage. You just calculate it somehow. You evaluate how much work is needed for that task in the project, and you decide that it's 30%, for example, and it's fine for us. If it somehow doesn't feel very, very unlogical, then we will ask questions. But no, the idea is here that we don't ask to questions about very detailed questions about your working hours and so on. If you understand that in the beginning of the project, person needs to work more, in the middle it's less. It's enough if you again calculate so-called average percentage, that in average 30% is fine. In the beginning maybe she works 50%, later 20%. If somebody doesn't work in the middle at all, then would suggest to make separate contracts. Let's say for 1 or 2 period you make a contract with some 50%, then in the middle there isn't contract and work of that expert, and then in the end of the project again sometimes. So be flexible, be realistic, and don't overthink, I would say, with very, very small hours or very small percentages. We also don't like very much that kind of work time, like 5% and 2%. That it's quite annoying and difficult to understand what the person does. Maybe it's again putting more work task to one person who would do a little bit more and not divide into very, very small pieces. So if it's already a very specific EMS issue already, these who have experiences, they might know, others maybe a little bit difficult to follow right now. But when the previous page, it was here was this first page of budget, where these budget lines are, but then when you go into these signs, you get into places where you need to fill in the unit type. So you need to choose or full-time or part-time, and here you also mark these salaries per periods. So in this first page, there are only full total costs, total salaries. Under these, say, pencils, will come these periods, and then you can mark under which period you would plan to hire that person or pay to that person. Very important note here also that the same calculation method what you used in the beginning of the project when you made a contract with person, that you follow the same calculation method during the whole project, that you won't change. Although it was maybe more issue with these hourly rates previously. Now if it's a fixed percentage, maybe it's not even so big issue anymore, although the share might change. If you want to change the share of work time, then inform us beforehand that you need that you see a need to change some responsibilities, and then it can be decided and solved. So next budget line, office and administration. It is lump sum. It comes automatically. It is lump sum calculated from salary costs. It's 15%. So it means that if you planned 100,000 euros as salaries for one partner, then there will be automatically, so 15% is how much? 15,000 you will get in addition for the office and administration costs. And what are the costs what go under this office and administration? They are overall costs like rent of the room, insurance, what are going to be? Communication, I mean telephones, also was in my head and flew away what I wanted to say. Check these costs in the program manual. They are listed there. What kind of costs go under the office and administration? It means that you cannot budget them separately on the other budget lines. You can't ask additional money for renting rooms, for example. What I forgot and remember, under this office and administration goes overall accounting as well. I mean, paying bills or something like that. It is different from financial management. Financial manager for the project who takes care about all project financing. It's one thing. It is allowed to have a special staff member, but just ordinary, regular accounting things, they are under the office and administration. Next budget line, travel and accommodation. As name is, you can budget here costs connected with travel and accommodation, visa costs, daily allowances for project staff, not other people. If you plan travels outside the program area, then mention it separately. There is also a separate section in EMS where you should mark if you have expenditures outside the program area, and that's it. Again, we would like to see this calculation method, how you calculated something that it is not enough that you mention some travel, some seminars. We want you to think more concretely according your activity plan, of course, that how many seminars, how many events, how many people would go, so that we would see the calculation method, how you got, for example, some 20,000 euros for travels. It is not very precise calculation. Of course, there will be changes during the implementation, but in more or less in general picture, we want to see that what you are planning, not in a way that you just add one row and then travel wherever somebody would like. External expertise and services. You probably don't have all expertise in-house. Your partners don't need all experiences and knowledges, so you need to procure something. Again, last bullet point came out at first. Remember procurement and and be aware of possible conflict of interest. So really very carefully think and then look through who you contract, how you contract. So if you make external expertise contracts, then everything related with that expertise about that contract should be calculated in. I mean, if you hire external expertise to do some work, then in this amount is everything: his salary, his knowledge, his office, his travels. So you can't report this external expert's cost in addition to some other budget line. So everything must be covered with the contract what you have signed with them. Some rules about this: you are not allowed to make subcontracting between project partners as well as associated partners. So actually where it comes from, it maybe comes already from your planning of your project and then partners who you involve in your project. In some cases there is a feeling that applicants try to involve all relevant organizations who may have some knowledge or some expertise on this topic, involve them as project partners. It's absolutely not needed. You can buy in services, buy in expertise, and that's the idea, how you keep your partnership smaller and also maybe find the better or more cost-effective service providers as well. So don't forget to plan Finnish FLC under this budget line. In Finland, first level control needs to be bought in with procurement, and it goes under that budget line. In other countries we have centralized FLC, and state organizations will do that work. And idea of this sentence: list all services separately what are above 5,000 euros. Again, the idea is that we don't want to see something like just 50,000 on the budget line, saying some very, very general term. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have seen the cases that external expertise and services is budget line, and on sub-budget line there is written external expertise and services, 50,000. That's it. That's not enough. We want to see what you do, what you plan, and of course it doesn't mean that if one external expertise what you are planning might be 50,000 that you need to divide that. If you know one work could cost, let's say 50,000, you just mark it this way. Just you write here explanation what kind of survey it is. But if you are planning different service and then you know that you need to make different procurements for these expertise and then services, then that's the idea, to divide them here under the separate sub-budget lines. Equipment. So if you buy something, if you need to buy something, then you plan it here. This equipment, what you plan to purchase, they must be essential, needed for project implementation and project results. So not something just what came in your mind. It can be bought or it can be rented or leased as well. Full cost of the equipment is eligible if it will be used solely by the project and if this will be used fully during the project. If the lifetime of the equipment is longer than project lifetime, then this depreciation needs to be done. And cost items need to be listed separately. Again, the same thing, similar with previous, that laptop, mobile phone, for example, the number of laptops, it can be 3 laptops, one sub-budget line. You don't need to put them all in separate budget lines, but then mentioning here for whom they are, for project manager or communication manager, something like that. And we have a limitation on the costs of mobile phones and laptops. Laptops up to 1,000 euros, mobile phones up to 500 euros. In some cases where project is planning very comprehensive, searches, analysis, some special software is needed and more powerful computer is needed, then it must be separately explained and asked. If it's relevant, then we allow it. Infrastructure and works for the project who have bigger activities, investments. Not even much to explain. If you plan to build something, build something, maybe again explain and divide them by separate each procurement by procurement, then it should be okay. So issue of state aid has been mentioned previously as well. A little bit more information right now. So in some cases our support is considered as state aid, and the program has decided that we use only the minimis aid regulation, what means sets quite big limits for us and our project, but that's the decision. So it means that up to 200,000 euros can be given, can be supported in these cases, and it is calculated for 3-year period. So if your partner has received the minimis aid, you need to find it out during the application period to decide that is it worth, or can you involve that partner. And yes, you need to calculate also that when they have received previous de minimis, and is this 3-year period over already or not. And it is definitely connected with priority 3 transportation project, small ports. as Ulari explained also in some measures in first priority, might be a case. We will assess this during the assessment as well, so it won't go through, let's say, or we hope that mistakes won't be made, but it's just useful for you to know beforehand. And of course, you can, if you have this doubt that it might be case, then contact us during the writing application already, and we advise you how to follow and maybe try to help you decide about this issue. And main principles, of course, to decide about this, is it stated issue or not, is that the organization who gives this support, does it has economic activities related that support. So does the organization gets economic advantage if it gets support compared with other players on the market, and is there effect on competition and trade? And it's not only private organizations issue, it's public organizations in the same way. As my priority, third priority, and small ports, example is that very often small municipality is owner and operator of the small port, then it doesn't matter that it's a public authority, it still acts as an economic entity on the market, offering some services in this boating field, and support to that organization will be considered as state aid still. Last budget line, net revenue. It is there. It is possible that project would create some net revenue. Our advice is that avoid filling in that budget line. What doesn't mean that hide something, but just don't plan that kind of activities what would create net revenue. It means that if organization who is involved in the project will get cash inflow as a result of project activities, and will start earn profit, then that exactly this profit is important. This part is not eligible. It means that in the end, after the project, this partner and the project needs to report that kind of incomes and pay it back. So it's allowed procedure, what is a possibility given. So it's nothing illegal, that if there is revenue generation, then it just needs to be reported and paid back later during the 5 years. Why we advise not to use it, it's complicated. Calculation is complicated, you will have this need to report later and so on. But of course, if the nature of the project is such that you develop that kind of thing that it will generate revenue, then you should go for that as well. So that kind of terms like lump sums, it is allowed to plan some expenditures as a lump sum, as a big joint costs, and report them in one line. For example, if you maybe organize some kind of workshops what are similar. I would say that they would similar, not unique events. That 3 workshops for developing aligned curricula is made as example here. You have similar costs for 3 events. You have room rental cost, you have maybe some catering cost, you have trainers cost, maybe something else. And then you organize similar thing 3 times, 5 times. Then you can put all these events into one package. You calculate how much it will cost, and you will put it as a one line in budget. And nice thing about this that if you have planned such lump sums, when you report, we don't require all separate invoices. You don't need to send us 3 invoices for room rents of different events, catering receipt, trainers receipt, whatever. It's a nice thing. Not so attractive part of lump sum is that you can report lump sum only then when you have done all these seminars, what you have planned into the same lump sum. So if for example, you organize 3 seminars in 3 different periods, then you can report it only after 3rd or on 4th period maybe. So basically you get back your money after 2 years. Because, I mean, 2 years from the very first seminar. It means that your long period when you get back your money. Another thing what is even more important, when you plan the lump sum, you need to provide information what is the result or value of it, and you need to show indicator of these activities and this lump sum lumped activities. For example, here is shown that 3 seminars, and where are the participants? So actually it's here. Indicator for the lump sum, for example, 100 participants in seminar or seminars. Then you, or it can be some other indicator, what you define yourself, how to evaluate the work, good work, what you did, but you need to achieve it. It means, just as a simple example, if you plan to have 100 participants in 3 seminars, and if one doesn't show up and you will have 99, then you won't get back none of this cost what you have planned for under this lump sum. So yeah, that's threat of planning lump sum. If you don't achieve what you have planned with this part of activities, then you won't get back your money. And so far we haven't had very many lump sums in our projects. There are cases, but not in many projects. Again, it is worth to do in these cases when you have very similar, basically the same activities what are repeating several times. Then it is makes sense, but you need to calculate these other requirements. Is it worth or not for you? So, other parts in budget in EMS. So there is this public partner contribution field where you need to show how much this partner contributes as self-co-financing amount. Here you also need to show, is it public, is it private source. You enter these amounts here. This number, this lower, they come automatically. EMS generates these numbers when you have filled in information in budget lines, but what you need to follow that the total of own contribution that you must insert here, and these two totals, total and total target value of partner contributions, they must be equal. But of course, it's you will see and understand this better if you are already there and have done and filled in the numbers in the budget lines. Then there is a section, project budget overview. All information comes here automatically. EMS generates these tables. There are many tables, and they are, of course, the numbers come from budget lines what you have inserted, and it will be divided by, you can see them by work packages, by periods, co-financing, ERDF sums, everything will be given here in many different ways. If you look at them, if you've noticed some unlogical things, then you need to go back to your budget lines and look or find out where to fix something. Then I also already mentioned that there is a first page of budgets, and then these marks or sections. If you go under these pencils, and there are totals and there are unit types. It's about staff cost that I mentioned already, that you need to select here part-time with fixed percentage or full-time, and divide sums according to periods. These are periods, but we don't want to see much information here under the comments. So the comments, it's basically the calculation method. Give it in the first page where these position names were given. The similar thing for in other budget lines, fill in only these periods. So whatever, equipment, external expertise. If you go under this pencil, you will get this table. Don't start writing here these units or comments. Units are basically how many computers you would buy, but as I said, we want to see it on this first page where sub-budget line was. But here you just mark on which period you're planning to do it. Probably computer, mobile phone in the first period, because you start to use it for implementing project. Some external expertise services come in second, third period. So don't plan equipment in last period, then there is no point to purchase it, as you can't use it for project implementation probably. So I went through the main parts, most parts of the budget already. So now documents, what you need to conduct and what you need to present while submitting application. It's also very important that you wouldn't miss or forget something. First thing, confirmation letter. Please remember, I don't know where you should write it right now, that you won't forget it with red and on your hand, or confirmation letter is only document what needs to be on paper, originally signed and sent by regular mail, by post to Joint Secretariat on required date. All other documents can be electronical or must be electronical, must be attached in EMS, but this confirmation letter must arrive to our office on paper. It's from lead partner. It's one letter. It's not from all partners. It's just confirmation letter of the project that we, organization that prepared and submitted project. We are applying that amount of support for implementing, something like that. That's the content of the document. Every partner should present contribution statements, their own contribution statement, and these letters, these statements should be attached to the EMS attachment section. There must be a document that verifies who has the right to sign documents on behalf of lead partner. So basically, it needs to show us that person X has right to sign confirmation letter. We compare these signatures. So if you have associated partners, then there should be letter of intent. All these letters, all these formulas are you can find in our website, and it is just that kind of document that associate partner states that we are interested in that project and would participate in one or another way. So other attachments are case by case. In some cases they're needed, in every time maybe not. Declaration of financial capacity to undertake project activities. It's required from private companies, private partners. If you decided to do something with lump sums and budgeted lump sums, then there must be a separate template where I went through it quite quickly, that but it was information about the lump sum, the calculation method, result of the lump sum. So it must be then separate template. So it means that you can't apply lump sum as just writing lump sum in sub-budget line. But when applying, you need to explain what this lump sum consists of and what's the idea of it. Just easier for you would be the reporting then. If we see that you have reported activities, achieved what you planned, then we just don't require all budget papers, I mean receipts and then bills and so on. So de minimis declaration in cases where the project falls under state aid. So also you can find it in our website. It's just relevant project partner or relevant organization needs to declare that they haven't received de minimis or they show that we have received, for example, 100,000 during last 3-year period. So then it's information for us and for yourself that means that another 100,000 might be allocated them. If you have partners that locate outside the program area, then verification of jurisdiction and role of that partner, why they are important for the project. And supporting documents for investments, it's again as much information or documents what are required and you have already when you start the project or when you write the application. Example was here about these small ports that construction permits and that kind of things may take a long time. If you have that kind of information or documents already, maybe not construction permit, but already ready-made drawings and some environmental analysis or something like that, then add this information also that it supports implementation of investment. If all this work is done, everything is attached, we are already moving to assessment. So project application will be evaluated and assessed based on the information what is in EMS. In required fields and in these required attached documents. So we don't want to see and get some additional big documents, attachments, file about explaining your project. And then showing how important it is. How important it is your project, you need to be able to write in application in these fields what you have there. You have enough room there, you don't need to write long history and background and situation in the world. What more or less we all know that we need to fight for the better environmental conditions. So you don't need to give big information about that. So, submitting. Before you submit, then check all your numbers and information what you have inserted, that everything is matching together. Check the technical eligibility criteria. Check, of course, of course, in the beginning, not in the end, but maybe you need to double check something in program manuals in the end as well. All these tables and drawings or extracts from EMS what were in the slides, where to write something. They are in a guide for filling in application form. So when you fill in data in EMS, keep this guide on your table and then follow the information and instructions what are there, and you save time not writing things in wrong places and getting later different requirements and conditions that make changes there or move information from one section to another and so on. So everything must be in EMS. Check saved project. So if you filled in everything, you always need to save. Actually, you need to save always, not we suggest always save when you filled in some section, because if you accidentally close the system, it is not automatically saved. So be careful not losing information. If everything is saved, then there will be a button on the left-hand side of EMS. There is a check saved project. When you click on that, then there will be question that is everything correct. You click that yes, it's correct, and then there appears button submit the application. We often receive a question that we have filled in everything, but how I submit? Just this checking is not done. If there are some mistakes or something is missing, the system checks it also. And if something really important is missing, there will be a red warning that that in some section somewhere something is not wrong or missing. And then you need to go back and then find it out and then fill it in. Dates and deadlines. So fifth call, basically we can say it's open already. You all work with it, will work with it. EMS forms will be open on 15th of August and will be open until 15th of October this year. Deadline is 3 o'clock in the afternoon on 15th of October finish time. So confirmation letter, the letter what I said that you need to send on paper must be stamped at latest on 15th of October. So it might be that it arrives to our office a few days later, but at least there must be a stamp that is latest 15. Suggestion, do it earlier. Do, of course, all application, do it earlier. Don't leave it into last day. With the confirmation letter, the problem is, what you need to have there on confirmation letter is the total amount of the project, so of the budget. So that's why I would say that send it away already 10 days before the deadline, and it's fine. You can send it 10 days before the deadline if your budget is finished and you know the number, and then really do it. Unfortunately, we have had, I think in almost all calls, we have had at least one project who haven't been able to send this confirmation letter and fails only due to that. Previously, there have been possibility to come on next call we hope that there won't be a sixth call anymore. So we would like to close our program with this fifth call and implementation of these projects. And really, once more, don't leave a submission on the last day and last minutes. We have many projects submitting 5 minutes before the deadline. If something happens technically, you forget something, if you forgot to fill in one field and you get this red warning when you check your application that you need to fill in something and you can't submit. You are in panic, you don't find this section, and you basically you are out probably. So really don't leave it on last moment. Steering committee of the program will come together on January next year and make decisions, and as steering committee meeting is in January, projects can start from 1st of February. And end date is 21st of December 2022, and as we are already in the next programming period, so we really don't have time to give you additional time. So plan your activities in a way that you really can finalize your projects. Assessment will be done in joint secretariat. At least 2 people will look and assess each application and give information to steering committee, who then will make a decision, and conditions might be set for the projects by the steering committee. I think I have finished. We have few slides what Samu agreed to take and then talk as a end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivo. So it's my pleasure to finish. Maybe I will just quickly take a step back and still stress the importance of the confirmation letter. You see the word stamped has been underlined here, and it really means that when you are sending the confirmation letter, don't use just regular mail, but send it as a registered letter, so you will get yourself a receipt that you have sent this document. Also, in every call, we have had cases where the confirmation letter has maybe been lost in the mailing process. So if you don't have any proof that you have sent the document, then you are basically out and nothing can be done. But if you have proof that you have sent the document, then we have the possibility of allowing you to send it again if this happens. But this still, some projects has done so that you may have a €2 million application and you write the confirmation letter and then you just put it on your secretary's table and she will send it or put it somewhere and then no one sees it again, and then that's the end of your story for that call at least. Okay, but this is just the reminders. One thing that still I wanted to mention is that we have a new simplified cost option that our monitoring committee has agreed to take on board for the fifth call. This is a so-called 40% flat rate option, and in this case the project is reporting practically only staff costs, and then a sum corresponding corresponding exactly 40% of the approved staff costs will be paid as a flat rate cost. So this means that for this flat rate part, the project does not need to present any invoices or any documentation to us. Of course, the documentation will and have to exist, but it doesn't need to be presented to us. So this is a new simplification, and you don't have to worry about it so much at this point. First of all, we don't expect this to be suitable for very many projects. As you can maybe already guess, it requires a certain structure of project activities, which leads to a certain structure of project budget. And in practice, this 40% flat rate, it means that the other costs other than staff costs, are about a little under 30% of the whole project budget in these cases. So in case your project is heavy on the staff costs, then it might be an option for you. But if you have a lot of investments, for example, and not so much personnel resources planned, then it probably is not suitable for you. And what you have to do when filling in the application, there will be a place somewhere for you to indicate if your project is interested in using this option. And then during the assessment process, the JS will assess and decide whether this project would be suitable or eligible for using this simplified cost option. And then certain procedures follow then if this is agreed with the project. This is optional. Even if you show or tick the box where you say you are interested, you don't in the end have to use it. It will be always negotiated and checked. But if the project is using it, all partners need to use it, so you cannot choose that one or two partners are using and the others not. Anyway, you will fill in the application form normally, providing a full budget, based on which then we will make our assessment also, in case the project indicates interest towards using this flat rate option. Some general reminders: still use English language always in the application form. Be clear, you don't need to repeat information in different text boxes. Try to be precise. If there are annexes that you haven't agreed with us to be there, then those annexes will not be taken into the assessment. You might have some documentation, for example, regarding investments that you cannot put anywhere else but as separate attachments, but then you need to agree with us beforehand that these attachments will be put there. So additional attachments in general will not be considered or assessed. Read the manuals and guidance, and as already was mentioned in the beginning, the EMS is not meant to be a planning tool but just a tool for submitting the application. So have your materials and budgets and everything planned elsewhere, and then fill in the application form. Shortly about the EMS, which is the system for basically applying for funding, reporting, making decisions, and basically for everything. It's used by I think a couple of dozen programs throughout Europe, a little bit customized to everyone's needs, but anyway, developed by a program called Interact, which is kind of how would I put it, some kind of development and education unit for the Interreg program, maybe as such. And some programs have like us have participated to the development more closely. And this is used via a regular web browser, and the latest versions are supported. I think Internet Explorer should not be anymore on the list, but the other ones apply. And to get access, you have to register on the front page. When you go to the EMS page, you can register there. And it is recommended that the lead applicant or lead partner will fill in the application, and others will provide content. And during the implementation, of course, all partners and the program also uses the system, and the different kind of rights will then be given by the Joint Secretariat managing authority. And this is technicalities, of course, but important things as well. In case you need support related to EMS, you can approach the project managers or project coordinators at the JS with the content-related questions, meaning what to fill in where and what should I do with this information and so on. And if you have purely technical questions related to the EMS, it doesn't function properly, you can't fill in some field or whatever technical questions, then there is a separate address where you can report these technical problems and get the reply then. So us JS project managers and coordinators, we probably cannot help with the technical issues so much, but you should contact the technical people for that. Okay, I think that concludes the presentation for the day. We still have some time before the consultation part for those of you who are coming to consultations. So we are here, we are open for questions, thoughts, ideas, and I think we have, Monica, the microphone somewhere. If you have a question, you will receive it.
Hey, I have a short question about the end date. It was said that it's in the end of January 2022. So is the end of the implementation, or is it the closure period included into that?
It's included. So the latest or the final deadline end date is the last of December 22, and closure period is included. So
okay.
You can do the actual implementation activities only until the end of September then. Yes, we have one.
Thank you. Is it a notary fee acceptable cost? If it's a lot of contracts which need a notary acceptation, is it acceptable?
Yes, I would say it's acceptable as such. If you have a need for specific legal advice regarding the project, then
thank you.
It would be an eligible cost.
Hello, I am from Riga Technical University. I have a question. How often can we change those fixed salary percentages? Can we change them for every month? Because we have also those structural funds where we have to report on the vocation payments specifically for each project, and we cannot report a percentage. So during the vocation periods, payments for Central Baltic project would be sometimes less, sometimes more than the percentage we would try to fix.
Yes, we don't allow constantly changing this share. So I don't think we have any straightforward rule on that, but I would say a few times during the project duration you can make such a change.
Is it possible to receive financing solely for technical solutions, for creating technical solutions?
That would be a bit difficult to say without knowing exactly what it is about. So I would recommend that we discuss more closely about these issues. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but depends.
Thank you. About the total budget, previously it was on the website 12 million euros for the overall objectives, and now I've seen at the beginning of your presentation larger sums per specific objectives.
Yes, actually the funding has not been allocated to specific objectives, but rather for the priorities. And well, we had the pleasure of receiving some extra financing last year from the unused funds of the ENI program, so that's why the increase has taken place, and that's basically the reason why we are having this fifth call still after the fourth one.
Yeah, I would like to know if there is still national co-financing for the fifth call project in Finland.
In Finland, yes, there is still national co-financing. So this is a purely Finnish system where the Finnish ministry has reserved some funding for Finnish applicants to cover part of the own co-financing. So there is no general mechanism for the Central Baltic program, but these are national approaches. But in Finland there is still funding for this purpose. Okay, seems to be quiet and satisfied people. I hope you got some information out of it, and please return to the documents that were mentioned, and if there is something that you still find hard to get a grip on or understand, then please contact us at the Joint Secretariat. We are there for you and for helping you, so please do that. And well, I just want to wish you good luck with the project preparations, and some of you have booked for consultation times starting from 3:30, and I see we're quite nicely on schedule. So there are 3 smaller rooms on the other side of the corridor, plus I guess this room. So look for your priority project managers. So Ylari for priority 1, myself priority 2, Ivo priority 3, and Pille for priority 4. And those of you who are coming to consultations should know your designated time slot, so they are in order.